Hi everyone, Petrik here. For today's video, it will be a book haul video. But first of all, I would just want to say thank you so much. Thank you so much to all of you who have left very kind messages and comments in my previous video. As promised, don't worry, I will not force myself if I don't feel energetic enough to create videos. If I don't feel well enough to create videos or write reviews, I will not do them. I will take a rest and prioritize my health. As for today's video, it will be a book haul of the year video. I have done two of these videos, I think last month. Yeah, the first book haul video was all the books that I bought and received from friends within this year so far. Then I also did another book haul video where I showed all the books that I received from authors, mostly self-published fantasy authors. And for today's video, it will be all the books that I received from publishers. So it's kind of like a trilogy of book haul videos. I think every book haul videos after this one will be more simple. It will be more monthly if possible. We'll see how it goes. But I want to make it known first that only three big traditional publishers that usually send books to me. And all three of them are based in UK. The first one and the most recent one is Gallagher. The second one is Tor UK. And finally Orbit UK. Usually only these three publishers send books to me. US publishers almost never send books to me. The only US publishers that have sent books to me are Ace Books, and it is for The Wolf's Call over here. This one. It is The Wolf's Call by Anthony Ryan. And I think this one was sent to me only because Anthony Ryan told the publisher to do it. And the other one is Tor.com. There were a few books I received from Tor.com, but that's it. That's one of the biggest downside of being an international reader, and it takes quite a lot. It takes quite a while for publishers to finally send books to me. So I'm going to divide this by categories. The first one are the books that I receive from other publishers other than the three big publishers that I mentioned earlier. And then after that, I'm going to show all the books that I received from Gallagher, Orbit, and Tor UK. And the first one that I'm going to show you is The Maleficent 7 by Cameron Johnston. This is a standalone grimdark fantasy, and Rob J. Hayes, the author behind Never Die and Pawn's Gambit, has mentioned that this is like Kings of the Wild combined with Suicide Squad. I've heard several great things about Cameron Johnston's work. I think The Traitor's God, I think The Traitor's God was his debut. I haven't read that one. People in the grimdark community have mentioned that it is a great grimdark duology. And this one is a standalone grimdark fantasy. This one I think is about a town under invasion, and these 7 bloodthirsty monsters are their last hope of saving this town. I'm looking forward to reading it as soon as I can. And then the next one that I received is A Man-at-Arms by Steven Pressfield. This is quite a big deal for me because I am a huge fan of The Gates of Fire by Steven Pressfield. It is one of the best historical fiction that I've ever read. And Steven Pressfield himself a few months ago messaged me that if I love Gates of Fire, I think I should give this one a try. So I obviously say yes. And he told his publishers to send this book to me, and to make things even better, he somehow sent 2 of them to me. Both of them are signed. And I've been looking forward to reading this one for a while now. I don't know what it's actually about, but knowing how much I love Gates of Fire, I think I'm going to enjoy this one as well. Next, I'm going to show you all the books that I received from Gallagher. And the first one is The Black Tongue Thief by Christopher Buehlma. This is the first book in the Black Tongue trilogy. Yeah, I think that's the name of the trilogy. Yeah, I've read this one. It is a very enjoyable book. There's a lot of humor, and I know that humor is a very hit and miss, but the humor in this book really clicked with me. And the main character, Kinshna Shanak, has this very distinctive narration that I absolutely enjoy reading about. I also did an interview with the author on this channel. It was a very enjoyable interview. I was very nervous at first, but chatting with the author somehow felt so comfortable. It was really fun. I'm definitely looking forward to reading more books by Christopher Buehlma. And Christopher himself was kind enough to send me Between Two Fires. It hasn't arrived yet. Hopefully soon now, because it has been quite a while. And the next book that I received from Gallagher is The Hand of the Sun King by J.T. Greathouse. This is the advanced reading copy edition. Choose Your Path is written on the front cover because it is one of the main theme of the book. And I'm really thankful that Gallagher sent this book to me because I've mentioned several times on this channel or on social media that this will hands down be my favorite debut of the year. I've read this one a few months ago and it still remains that way. I absolutely loved it. And I think the publisher made a mistake and sent me 2 copies of it. But in addition to these 2 books of the same copy, I am without a doubt looking forward to getting the hardcover edition as well. And the last book that I received from Gallagher is The Trouble with Peace, the paperback edition by Joe Abercrombie. This is the second book in the Age of Madness trilogy. I don't think I need to say again how much I love Joe Abercrombie's book in the First Law world. The First Law world as a whole is my favorite grimdark fantasy series. It is the best grimdark fantasy series that I've read, and I cannot wait for the Wisdom of Crowd. That's all the books that I received from Gallagher this year so far. And next, I'm going to show you all the books that I received from Tor UK. The first one that I'm going to show you is The Memory of Souls. This is the third book in the Chorus of Dragons series by Jen Lyons. I've read the first two books. I felt mixed about the first book, but the second book, The Name of All Things, was an improvement over the first book. I haven't gotten around to reading this one. I think it's better for me to wait until this series is completed because this series is very complex. It is very complex, it's epic, there is a lot of names, it's jumping timelines, it's very confusing. I think it will be better for me to binge read them or at least read them closer to each other rather than wait each year before I get to the next one. And the next book that I received is Charterworth by Adrian Tchaikovsky. This is the first book in the Final Architecture trilogy. Prior to this one, I've read Children of Time, Children of Ruin, and The Doors of Eden. All three are really great, especially The Doors of Eden. That one was my favorite out of the three. This will be my first attempt at reading his series. Adrian Tchaikovsky has a lot of books published. He is like Brandon Sanderson, and every time I read something, somehow he has released another book. But judging from my experience from reading his books so far, I think I'm going to enjoy this one as well. And the publisher also sent me a hardcover. I feel so bad that I haven't gotten around to reading this one, hopefully soon. The next book that I received from Tor UK is The Desolation Called Peace by Arkady Martin. I have wanted to get to reading this one a few months ago, but my TBR pile, as always, was too immense, and I ended up pulling this on the back pile for a while. But hopefully this duology, this is a duology by the way, hopefully this conclusion to this duology will be a satisfying one because a lot of people have mentioned that this one was even better than the first book. The first book was great, it took a while for me to get really into it, but it has one of the most intricate world building I've read in sci-fi, and I hope that this one will be able to live up to it. And the last book that I received from Tor UK is The Empire's Ruin by Brian Staffley. I've talked about this book a lot of times on the channel. It is my favorite book of the year so far. I have done a full spoiler-free review that I put on this channel, and recently I also did an interview with the authors. It is one of my favorite interviews that I've ever done with an author. But if you've read Chronicle of the Unhewn Throne trilogy and Skullsworn, please read this one as soon as possible. This is my favorite book of the year so far. It's truly amazing and it's signed. It has a book plate signed. And again, this is a case of a double copy being sent to me by the publishers. I have no idea why this happened to me. I get a lot of double copies this year, I'm not sure why. But well, other than the fact that my spaces are limited, I'm not complaining. Now let's move on to the final category. It is the books that I received from Orbit UK. The first one that I'm going to show you is Son of the Storm by Suyi Davis Okungboa. I haven't read this one yet, but the cover art is absolutely gorgeous. This one is done by Dan Dos Santos. Dan Dos Santos is one of my favorite artists, and he also did the interior artworks for The Name of Duin 10th Anniversary Edition. I'm not sure yet when I'll actually get to this one, but hopefully the content will live up to this cover art because this cover art is gorgeous. And then I also received Brother Rat by Adrian Selby. I haven't read anything by Adrian Selby yet. I think his books are quite mixed received because he has this very distinctive prose and it's clearly a matter of hit or miss. But I did sample a few bits of Snakewood, his debut. That one, unfortunately, just from sampling the writing, didn't click with me at all. But I think this one is more accessible. All three of his books, Snakewood, The Winter Road, and Brother Rat, all three of them are standalone books that connects with one another. And the next two books that I received from Orbit are The Ikesar Falcon and The Dragon of Jinsaying. I have read the first book, The Wolf of Orenyaro by K.S. Viloso, a long time ago when it was still sub-published and it was still an advanced reading copy edition. And so many people have told me that the second book improved significantly after the first book. But the reason I haven't read this one is that I don't think I remember enough of the first book to actually dive into this one because, as I said, I've read the first book a very long time ago. I think I have to reread the first book first before I dive into this one and then into the final book, The Dragon of Jinsaying. I love the cover art of this trilogy. I think Orbit did an excellent job by hiring Simon Goinard to do the cover art of this trilogy. Then the next book that I received from Orbit is The Last Lies of Dorben. This title is definitely inspired by the lies of Lok Lamora, there is no doubt. And this is the third book in the Kingdom of Grid trilogy. This is the final book. I haven't read the first book yet, but I think I've heard that if you love heist fantasy, you should give this one a try. I hope to get into the first book within this year, at least, hopefully. And then I also received The Splinter King by Mike Brooks. This is the second book in the God King Chronicles. The first book was called Black Coast. I've read that one. I've read Black Coast and I have a bit of a mixed feeling about it. The issue I had with the Black Coast is that I felt that only a few POV were so interesting to get my attention. By the way, I am a bit confused regarding this cover art. This cover art is actually Sekiro. the video game. This cover art is done by Anato Finstark, but this is a fan art of Sekiro. I have no idea why a fan art of Sekiro is chosen to be the cover art of this book. Because I felt mixed about the first book, I'm not sure yet when I'll get to this one. But I'm really hoping that this one will be better than the first book. And we're almost at the end. The next one is The Broken God by Gennett Hanrahan. This is the third book in the Black Iron Legacy. I've read this one. There's a lot of great stuff in this book, but I think this one is the weakest of the series so far. Although I absolutely love the main character POV, Kari. Her POV chapters were thoroughly incredible, but it's really unfortunate that I couldn't click with the other new POV characters. The world building though was absolutely stunning and mind-blowing as always. If you love a dark and fascinating world building, seriously give this one a try. The first book, The God of Prayer, is one of my favorite fantasy debut of all time. It is amazing stuff. And lastly, the last book that I received from Orbit within this year so far is The Shadow of the Gods by John Gwynne. So in addition to The Shadow of the Gods Goldsboro edition that I bought, I have this one as well. It's another double. But you know what? I'm not complaining. I love The Shadow of the Gods. I love John Gwynne's book. And if you don't know about this book, this is a Norse-inspired epic fantasy. And it is one of my favorite books of the year so far. I mean, it's John Gwynne. John Gwynne cannot do any wrong for me. He is one of my favorite authors and this cover art is amazing. I cannot wait to see the cover art of the sequel and of course reading the book. Because as much as I love John Gwynne's first book of a series, he's not the best in the first book. His series constantly gets better and better, and in my opinion, his final book are always the best one. Always. So yeah, that's all the books that I received from publishers within this year so far. That's about 20 books. And I want to say thank you so much to Angry Robot, Golanx, Orbit, and Tor UK for sending me these books to read and review. And if I'm not mistaken, not a lot of international reviewers get this opportunity. So thank you so much for sending me these books to read. And hopefully you'll keep sending me books. I will never complain about them. So yeah, that's it from me today. Which of these books do you think looks the most interesting? What's your most recent book haul? As always, thank you so much for watching and thank you for your support. Bye bye.